All right, so here we have our drawing from 23.3, and I'm gonna go ahead and overlay another tracing paper for 23.4. So let's take a look at our text again. So the first part I'm not going to really add, and that's the part about Moses. I think he's just using that as an illustration, and it's going to be difficult to really put that in here. I may make the reference to Exodus 3:5. We'll see here in just a minute. So it says, if then you wish to behold and commune with him who is beyond sense perception and beyond concept. So as we said before, this is the person here, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that again. That is P, and this is his body. And then you have this dotted circle, and here is the mind, and then the smaller dotted circle is the spirit. And if we remember, we were talking the last couple texts, we talked about in order for someone to really have communion with God, their intellect and their being has to be in line with the commandments. And so that's what we had this circle out here for. It was the following of the commandments. And then this was the intermediary line between us and God, and then God coming to us and meeting us here. What I think he's trying to say here in number 4 is you have this almost a paradox where God is beyond sense perception and beyond concept, but we can still conceive of who he is and still experience him. So that's the basic, like, God is both transcendent and immanent. In other words, he's outside of time and experience and reality, but he's also completely within it. Or in other words of saying, from an Orthodox perspective, in our theosis, or from a Protestant perspective, in our sanctification, and even in our salvation, the Spirit of God comes in us, lives in us, is united with us. But there's also another sense in which God is other. So there's always that tension that we're dealing with here. So in this drawing, what I want to do is try to illustrate that idea. And so I'm going to continue with having the intellect up here on this layer, and we'll keep the lines here. I may dot those out, but for now, I'll just make the connection here to the mind. This intermediary line here. And so what I may do to highlight this idea of God being outside of us is maybe put a box here. And what that will highlight, or illustrate rather, is the idea that God can still come to us, and so you still have him coming within this box so that we experience union with him, but there's a transcendence about him. So I'm going to put the 4 here and explain that this box is representing his otherness, his separateness from us. And so he's making the point that in order for us then to conceive or to experience the one that's beyond experience, we have to free our minds and free ourselves from impassioned thought. And so that's something that will probably become more clear the more we read through this text. But my initial thought is obviously that those thoughts that are swayed by, controlled by, influenced by the passions. And so how I want to indicate that, let's see here. It really should go outside this box, because if you remember, this box represented incense, which in the Orthodox practice, incense represents both the presence of the Holy Spirit, but also prayer. So this was our 4 types of incense down here. So I'm just going to, when I go to draw this out, just going to recreate all of that. And then I think what I'll do is put this off to the side and then put a smaller smaller circle, which I'm going to put a smaller circle in here, and that will represent T, which are thoughts. And what I'm going to do, T with a subscript I, meaning these are impassioned thoughts. They're not just abstract thoughts or sacred thoughts, they're impassioned thoughts. So we're going to put that off to the side because Evagrios is basically arguing, or not arguing, but teaching that these thoughts need to be put aside in order for us to have perception of God. And so I'm also going to draw God back in here so that we understand the connection here of him still being outside. I need to sharpen that up. And triangle here. We got God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And so what I might do with this is put a line connecting that to the box to just show that God is outside of us, even though, and I'll just highlight this part, even though he does have access to us through, and really this should go here. I'm gonna fix that. Yeah, on this one I'm gonna fix it where the line goes here. Like that. And yeah, because he especially in Orthodox thought that we don't have access to his essence. And this is really representative more of his essence, whereas we experience him, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, through his energies. I think that's how you would interpret that. So I think I may actually, in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna erase this dotted line here. And that will also help emphasize that we don't have direct knowledge or sense perception of him. That has to be mediated through the Son and through the Holy Spirit as well. But he was, let me see, 23.3. Yeah, I'm gonna add that 23.3. I'm also gonna do the dotted line from the Holy Spirit, since we do have access and experience of the Holy Spirit as well. So that'll be good. That'll be good. Okay, so we'll do that. And I'll make a comment in my notes of that experience there. So, or what these lines mean in regards to the experience of God. So, okay, so from here, as I do, we're going to put our notes off to the side over here. Notes, and this just will help me when I go back in because I'm going to draw these on the computer so they're nice and neat, and then my notes help me explain the lines, because especially the farther we go into this, I'm going to forget details from these drawings here. So I am going to make a note about the dotted lines here, and I'm actually going to put an E, and that E is going to represent the experience of God, and I'll put / theosis, and I may detail this out like E to S, E to Holy Spirit, as mediated experience. Okay, so I'll do that on that one, and then this one in my notes. I'm just going to say this is number 4. So I'm retaining the incense box and placing the